What we're looking at here are Ukrainian soldiers attacking and clearing a Russian trench in the Serebyansky forest.
These experienced soldiers are using well-drilled tactics to ensure their assault is a success. Trench combat is one of the most brutal aspects of battle, and it has become one of the defining features of the Ukraine war.
But how exactly do troops attack a trench? And what is trench warfare like in the 21st century? We're going to examine this footage, study the tactics, see how the Ukrainians train, and speak to their instructors to find out.
This is a typical Russian trench system, made up of a zigzag main trench, which makes it harder to attack, and various branches leading off to things like artillery positions, ammo stores, and advanced fighting positions. Every few feet are small dugouts where the Russian soldiers defending it can sleep or hide from bombardments. For the sake of this example, let's say there are 10 Russians in the trench. Approaching it are 20 Ukrainians who are going to attack and seize it. Every army does this slightly differently, but we're going to base this example on US tactics because many Ukrainians will have been trained by US soldiers. The first thing the attackers will do is split up. One squad of 10 men will stay here to provide what's called a base of fire. Their job is to keep an eye on what's happening in the trench and shoot any Russians who stick their heads up to keep their teammates safe. This is called covering fire. The second squad will move towards the trench and, as it does so, will split again into 2 teams of 5. One team will hold back to provide more cover, while the other moves forward to the trench. The squad leader will pick an entry point, generally a place where the team can get close to the trench without exposing themselves to enemy fire, and direct his men toward it. With the help of their squad mates, this team is going to fight its way towards the trench, where 2 soldiers will crawl up to the entry point and toss grenades inside to clear out enemy troops. Once the grenades have gone off, the men will storm into the trench, advancing in opposite directions and firing as they go to clear out any remaining enemies.
We can see the Ukrainian troops doing this. This is first-person footage captured by their fighters in the Serebyansky forest in eastern Ukraine back in July. They're attacking a Russian trench to stop Putin's soldiers from advancing through this area. We're following one of the teams that will breach the trench. It's just before dawn, the perfect time to mount a surprise attack so the enemy doesn't see you coming.
The assault team moves into position and the team leader uses a laser to designate the trench entry point here. They throw grenades to clear the Russians out. Then they storm into the trench and open fire to make sure the area is secure. In the next step, the advancing soldiers fight their way to a corner or intersection where they stop. The team has now established a foothold that is clear of enemies and is ready for phase 2, clearing the rest of the trench. This is going to follow a very similar pattern to breaching the trench. The attacking team forms a line, one soldier behind the other, all facing the same way because the other team are going to have their back. Each time they reach a corner or intersection between a clear section of the trench and a section held by the enemy, they're going to stop and toss grenades. Once the grenades explode, they turn the corner and open fire, advancing down the trench and stopping only when they reach the next corner or intersection.
Let's see the Ukrainian soldiers putting that into action.
Here, the remaining team members are joining the breaching pair in the trench. They regroup and then move to clear the first intersection. You can hear they're in constant communication with their comrades over the radio. Plus means roger or understood, while minus means negative or no.
Граната своя! +1!
Grenades are the first step, before the men move forward and open fire with rifles. It's hard to see exactly what's happening in the dark, but it appears there's one branch of the trench going to the left and a dugout to the right. In just a few meters, they encounter another dugout, firing into it and then tossing a grenade to clear it out. They're unsure whether the first grenade was effective, so they toss another. This detonates ammo inside the dugout, and a moment later there's a flurry of activity and a hail of gunfire. The Russians defending this bit of the trench are eliminated, and it is now safe for the team to advance further. Members of the team rotate regularly, so whoever was at the front can grab more ammo or rest, making sure the whole team stays fresh and the attack keeps moving. To do this, the lead man hugs into the wall of the trench and allows his teammates to pass him before rejoining the line further back. This way, the team doesn't need to stop to reorganize. Speed is crucial to the attack because it gives the enemy less chance to get their bearings and organize a defense. At each corner or intersection, the attackers repeat the same sequence, tossing grenades, clearing, advancing, and rotating. This continues until the entire trench is clear. With the position secure, the next step is to regroup and prepare for an enemy counterattack, or withdraw back to base. With the dugout clear, the team moves forward. They're now going to repeat that same process. Grenades, rifle fire, move, secure, until the entire trench is cleared. Surveillance drones keep track of their progress from the sky. Team members swap over. When the lead's gun jams, his teammate immediately takes up his position in the line. You can see them exchanging grenades, warning each other of obstacles, and covering each other's backs. When an ammo fire blocks their way, two men have to climb out of the trench to advance. This is dangerous because it exposes them to enemy fire, but their teammates cover them while they make their move. Once they are on the other side, more grenades and rifle fire clear the enemy dugouts. Soon, the entire trench is clear of Russians. The men radio their commander to tell him the job is done and then begin securing the trench against a possible counterattack. They check their ammo to make sure they have enough to withstand whatever Russia might throw back at them.
This trench is now Ukrainian. The soldiers have used textbook tactics to stop Putin's men from advancing in this area. How did they learn this? We went to see new Ukrainian soldiers being trained for trench combat.
We're here at an undisclosed location somewhere in the south of England to learn how one builds, defends, and attacks a trench network.
These are new Ukrainian conscripts who have come to the UK for basic training. Today, they're rehearsing how to attack a trench. They only have 5 weeks to learn everything about being a soldier, so the tactics they're using here are basic. But you can still see how they use grenades to breach the trench, and how they move through in pairs, covering each other as they go. You can see how narrow the trenches are. It's a claustrophobic space with danger around every corner. They do a few dry runs just practicing the movements. Then they turn up the volume.
Go!
Helping them train are British experts in trench warfare like Sergeant Reynolds of the 1st Fusiliers. I wanted to know how the British would attack a trench.
Before we even launch onto the trench, we want to get as much information on the trench itself, obviously positions, etc., the layout. That would have been filtered down to the smaller units, like I said, who's going to be launching onto it. Then they're coming up with their own plan, etc., on what they need to aid them in taking this trench. Now that they've came up with a plan, they found a decent area where they're going to set up their assembly area, okay, FUP, form-up point. So predominantly it would be in a wood block just off to the flank, okay, and then they're picking a point that's vulnerable within the trench itself, so that's either where there's limited manpower, if the defences aren't up to standard, of the rest of the trench, so if one area is more defended than the other. In the ideal world, they would start softening up targets, all right, so using sharpshooters, snipers to take out key personnel in there, people on stag, sentry, etc. Then the artillery, so the use of combined arms, all right, and then once they're happy, they would start launching onto it in small teams, maybe 2s, 4s, etc. Okay, so they don't have a full advancing wave of people just coming towards their trench like how you would have seen in World War I. Okay, so we're launching less people at the trench, okay, to save manpower. They would get broken down into their assault pairs, assault pair 1, assault pair 2. When they're approaching the trench, in an ideal world, they want to stay out of the sight of the apertures, okay, because if they're out of sight of the apertures, they can't be engaged, they're in a safe position. They've approached the bunker position that they have seen is the weakest, all right, and then they're just going to use a lot of grenades, okay, especially out in Ukraine. They say the more grenades you have, the higher the chance of winning. So they're grenading it as much as possible, okay, and then once they're happy that the bunker is clear or that section of the trench is clear, then that's when they're physically going to make entrance into it.
Once we're into the trench, what happens then?
Okay, so as we start making our way through the trench, we know the trench layout, obviously due to the reconnaissance from the drones, the aerial footage, etc. All right, so we know the layout. We know which ways we need to go, which way we need to fight, hold, etc. And we're just trying to clear the trench in a logical sequence so it prevents fracticide. So, for example, if I'm not going down there, okay, and then there's still enemy that needs to be cleared in there, they're not coming up behind me and engaging me, and then if I'm trying to engage them, there's people not here that's trying to engage them. So we're just trying to prevent that blue and blue and the enemy reinserting behind us. Ideally, you want to clear it in a sequence where it's nice and methodical and logical, okay, so you're picking out strong points where you're like, that position needs to be defeated first before I approach on and push onto the rest of the trench.
What happens when you reach a strong point, like a bunker?
Obviously, weapon systems are up, trained, ready to react to enemy that's going to potentially present themselves, and a lot of grenades. Like I said, bunkers are heavily defended positions. Within there could be bunkers within bunkers, okay? There could be grenade sumps, everything. So therefore, you need to have a lot of grenades in there, okay? And you're going to be clearing it by fire. The reason why we clear it by fire, especially in trenches, there's not going to be any civilian population, so you're able to clear it by fire. You know, if you're clearing a position, you are the most forward person. Yeah. Okay, so you're able to go in there and clear it by fire. So a grenade sump is basically where a grenade gets thrown into a bunker, say, and it's just a small little hole where it captures the grenade, all right? I'm not talking like a golf hole, all right? They're pretty big. You're able to quickly, within a couple of seconds, push a grenade into there, and that will take most of the fragmentation.
And what about clearing corners?
So corners, that could be the difference between life and death. If you just waltz past it like we did, then you're most probably going to end up dying. But if you're taking the corner with high levels of skills and drills where you're doing what you've been taught, then the most likelihood of you surviving it is tenfold. Again, it's the exact same as the bunkers, lots of grenades, cleared by fire. It's pretty much the exact same. The main threat within the bunker is not within the bunker itself, it's from the drones. Basically, the FPV drones or the bomblet drones, the droplet drones, sorry.
How many people are involved in the attack?
So you want to keep it relatively quite small because, like I said, trenches can be quite dangerous from up above, and as you can see, it's quite a confined space. So as soon as you do get a grenade in here, it's going to be quite difficult to maneuver out. So that's why I'd roughly say having a fire team section max. So a fire team, that's roughly between 3 and 4, and then a section is anywhere between 6 to 8. But you want to make sure that you're rotating people out, so the percentage of them dying is sort of limited. As rough as it sounds, you share it in a way, because obviously every time that it's the same geezer that's coming around the corner, then you know at some point he's going to take it. Yeah. And you just want to spread out the love, more or less.
If that's how you attack a trench, then how do you defend one? And why build one in the first place?
To dig a trench, like I said, you need somewhere where you can basically defend the location to stop the enemy from taking that ground. And digging trenches is most probably the cheapest way of conducting that. So basically with trenches, you've got the protection, you've got everything. It's linking villages to towns to cities, etc., back to command. And this is simply the cheapest way of doing it, because a couple of bits of timber and some metal doesn't cost a lot compared to trying to put massive fortifications in there. And obviously it's quite low to the ground, you don't want to stay up high, and you can fit a lot of troops in here to cover that ground to make it more defended than others. As we come into the actual trench itself, you can see that we've got the sandbags on the walls, all right, you've got the boards to reinforce it so it's not caving in on itself. You've got the 6-foot pickets which are supporting those boards, right? And then underneath that you would have wire running out to smaller pickets to, again, offer support so it's not caving in from potential artillery fire, IDF, etc. and just day-to-day use when people's climbing in and out of the trench.
How does a trench actually get dug?
Through a lot of blood, sweat and tears, to be honest. A lot of sleepless nights. Obviously, if you want to defend an area, you want to defend it fairly quickly. Okay, so it means a lot of work, a lot of shovels, picks, etc. Entrenching tools. If you have the luxury of excavators, then get them in and they do pretty much half a job. And then all you've got to do is just do all the reinforcements. I'd say a decent sized trench like this, you're looking at, if you've got, say, a platoon, a week max, I'd say.
Once you've built your trench, you have to defend it.
So as you can see coming through the corridors, you've got more corridors that would split off into other defensive locations where the bunkers are situated. Predominantly, you've got a field view of fire. Okay, so there's nothing in front of them because it would be pretty redundant placing a bunker behind a hill. Put it either in front of the hill or just to the side of the hill, etc. And to cover dead ground where you can't see on the other side of, say, a bit of grass, so you would flatten the grass, put a bunker there so you can observe out. Okay, but as you come into the bunker, it's relatively quite small. You're not going to be conducting any admin in this bunker. All right, this is just solely going to be for defending the area. As you can see, you've got the reinforced ceiling, the reinforced walls, all right, to prevent it collapsing from any enemy indirect fire. Here you've got the sandbags which create a firing platform, all right, so that soldiers can rest their weapon systems, all right, and get decent aim shots off at the enemy. On the sides and to my front here, you've got the apertures. That's obviously where the weapon systems are going to be pointing and they're going to be able to engage the enemy that's approaching. All right, and then, like I said, out to the front, you would have other bits of defences, i.e. claymores, etc. For a defensive location, okay, predominantly, me personally, I would have machine guns, okay, because it's a lot of firepower compared to the standard AK variants, but obviously not everybody's going to be able to have a machine gun, so therefore you just need to sort of mix it up with PKMs, AK variants, like I said, and some sharpshooters, sniper rifles, etc.
The British are also training Ukrainian veterans to become instructors themselves.
Мене звуть Олександр. В армії я служу з 20-го року. В одній з найпотужніших механізованих бригад Збройних сил України. Ну, по-перше, в перший день я знаходився на кордоні з Російською Федерацією, бо ми вже знали конкретно, що буде війна. Почуття були такі якісь змішані, незрозумілі. І в перший же день було боєзіткнення, і я отримав поранення. Але ми тоді перемогли. Це було за декілька кілометрів від державного кордону. Ми зустрічали російську танкову колону, яка прямувала до Харкова. І прийняли перший бій. На нас вийшов російський головний дозор. Ми встроїли йому засідку, знищили їх. І під час бою прийшлося пересуватись по відкритій місцевості і отримав наскрізне кульове поранення в праве стегно. Так, після поранення зразу повернувся до своїх побратимів. Потім ми відвоювали Харківщину в 22-му році. Пішли в контрнаступ, звільнили Куп'янськ, Ізюм, Шевченково. І наскільки змогли продвинутись до межі Харківської і Луганської області, дійшли туди, а потім вже потрапив під Бахмут. Розумієте, коли бачиш першого вбитого росіянина, особливо як це росіянин вбитий власноруч в бою, зникають почуття, з'являється таке, як кураж. Тобто ти не розумієш, що ти робиш, як ти робиш, де ти знаходишся. Все настільки швидко там все происходить, що потім, коли ти виходиш з бою, ти дивуєшся сам себе, як ти що ти міг в цьому бою загинути раз 15. Але ми не маємо права на те, щоб загинути, бо ми боронимо свою державу.
This is a Ukrainian conscript taking part in the training on what turns out to be a special day for him.
Так, мене звати Андрій. Я не маю позивного, тому що ще його не заслужив. Я солдат, сьогодні мені виповнилося 40 років. Саме сьогодні.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Я був банківським співробітником з 16-річним стажем у сфері ризик-менеджменту. Я не маю військового досвіду і став до лав ЗСУ тільки у вересні цього року. Ну, я відчуваю тривогу, і як, мабуть, будь-яка адекватна людина, є деякий страх, але я думаю, що я зможу перетворити цей страх на свої якісні якісь показники в плані бути більш обережним, обачним. Якось так.
Before we go, is there anything they'd like to say to the Russians?
Я думав про це питання і представляв собі це, що я буду кричати в спину утікаючому російському воїну, про те, що український народ ніколи не забуде те, що вони створили. Він ніколи не простить відсутність, те, що вони забрали у українських дітей дитинство, а у наших батьків їх спокійну старість.
На перший погляд це легке запитання, але воно не є легким. Я бачив на власні очі масові захоронення дітей, жінок. Це те, що робили росіяни. І я б їм нічого не сказав. І я буду боронити свою країну до останнього. І нічого їм навіть не скажу. Буду вбивати їх до тих пір, поки вони будуть знаходитись на моїй землі.
That's where this tape stops, but we'll be back soon to play you through another piece of War on Tape.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you want more videos like this in your feed, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.